Hello and welcome to another how-to by Norfield. I'm Carl Lewis, Senior Service Technician here at Norfield. Today we're going to be working on an older Rev Series Magnum and we're going to change the bar in the Jamb Rack Assembly. So this is the bar that goes back and forth to raise and lower the jam risers. You can see on this machine it has gotten bent, so it doesn't work correctly. So we're going to take the bar out and replace it, and then when we put it back in, we'll show you how to set it up so that this doesn't happen again. So the first thing we need to do is to loosen the bolts on all of the jam lift wedges. On a Magnum there'll be 8 of them, on a Pro there'll be 6 of them. The bolts don't need to come completely out, you just need to loosen them up. So we're going to take the handle off from this end. We're just going to remove the shoulder bolt out of it. Take the handle off and leave it attached to that first wedge. Now we're ready to slip the rod out this direction, moving all of the wedges off as we go. Now that we have the rod out, we should be able to lift the jam risers out of their holders also. Now that the jam risers are out, we'll clean up the holes that the jam risers go in to get any sawdust or residue out of those. And we're going to clean up the jam risers so they slip up and down nicely in the holes. So we're going to use some sort of a solvent that evaporates completely, and we're going to clean up all of the sawdusty residue out of the inside of those holes that the jam risers slide in. The shaft on the jam riser needs to be clean. All the sawdust removed from that also, and any residue. The sides of the slots get kind of beat up from the rods, and they create high spots up in here. So we'll take a flat file and lay it down flat on the side of the rod and file off just the high spots. As you come around here, you can see the bright spots where the high spots are. And we just want to smooth that out. We don't really want to make the rod significantly smaller. We just want to get the high spots off. Now that we have all the jam risers cleaned up, we can take the new rod, start it from this end, put it through the first jam riser, and then put the first wedge on it. And after every jam riser, we'll install another wedge. All the way down to the last one there. So we're going to put the handle back on over here. This handle bolts in here with a shoulder bolt. Underneath the handle, over the shoulder bolt, there's a 1/2-inch lock washer. We're going to use it as a spring washer, so we're going to take this 1/2-inch lock washer and we're going to file the points off from it. On both sides. Take our handle, our shoulder bolt, put the shoulder bolt through the hole, put the lock washer over the shoulder bolt. We're going to put that on the machine. Make making sure that the lock washer is up on the shoulder bolt and not trapped by it. The other side, there is a set screw that we're going to loosen up. This shoulder bolt, tighten it up all the way. We've got it as tight as it'll go. Then we're going to loosen it about a quarter of a turn and tighten the set screw against the other side. And that's how we get tension on the handle, the correct amount of tension on the handle without it being loose and floppy or too tight. All right, now that we've got the tension on the handle, we can take our wedge and put it on the rod. Like that. Coming through there. So this wedge wants to be right on the end of the rod. So we're going to take the rod and make it flush with the end of the block. And we're going to lock this one down right on the end. So now we have the handle adjusted. We have the block at the end of the rod. So our first wedge is right at the end of the rod. We're going to take the handle, we're going to push that up so that this block is all the way up against the bushing here. And then take each of these and push them all the way up against the bushing also. All the way down. When they're in there, then we're going to take and tighten one bolt on each one of them. Doesn't have to be overly tight, just kind of snug so it doesn't move around. Install the handle at the other end, the outfeed end. We're going to take our lock washer and file the points. So we'll install the handle using the same process we did at the other end. Shoulder bolt through the handle, through the lock washer. The set screw on the outside of a turn or so. That's good. So tightened it up, backed it off a quarter of a turn. Lock it with the set screw on the outside. We have the handle on and the tension adjusted. We'll slip a 5/16 collar over the rod. Some of the later machines have 3/8 rods on them and you'll use a 3/8 collar. Now you can put the adjuster block on. Set the handle at the opposite end so that it's straight up and down. And then lock down the two set screws. To position this set collar, we're going to look at the wedge here and we're going to run it down until the tip of the wedge gets just inside this bushing here, and then set that collar up against there and tighten it up so that the rod can't go any further in than this maximum down location. So we're going to insert a door in the machine and a jamb. We're going to bring it down here over this first jamb riser. Even if it is a short door or a 6/8 door, bring it all the way down. And then we're going to take the jamb riser, this first jamb riser, and bring it up so that the jamb is even with the door. The first jamb riser is the only wedge that we can't adjust relative to the handle. So That's where we set that. And then we'll come down to the second one and check it. So we want to take this one down the amount of that gap. Now, because of the angle of the jam riser, or the jam wedge, the jam wedge needs to move about 3 times the gap. So if we had a 32nd of an inch gap there, we're going to move this about 3 32nds. And then we'll check it again. So you keep adjusting that until you have the door and the jam at the same height. See, there's 3 more jam risers that we haven't got to yet because the door is not long enough. So we can just move the door down and the jam, as long as we don't change the position of the handle, and we can transfer that information right on across. So we can come back and double check this one and make sure it's still at the correct height, and then continue to adjust the jam risers as we go down. All the jam risers adjusted so they're at the same height, and you can take your wrench and go back down and tighten up the other bolts on the wedges that we didn't tighten up before. And the jam rack is ready to use.